Good morning. Welcome to the fourth hour. Always great to have you along. One of the things that I really love about doing this is when when I'm on the air, it's really difficult to stay on top of things that are happening right now. You know, you're on the air and I've got this and I'm taking phone calls, so on. So the once I get off the air, between then and now, I have a chance to run out and see a few things, see what's going on, and kind of bring you up to speed. For instance, this is a great example. I didn't catch this earlier this morning. Donald Trump on True Social, as we continue to focus on the air disaster in Washington, D.C., Trump says the Black Hawk helicopter was flying too high by a lot. It was far above the 200-foot limit. That's really not too complicated to understand, is it? No, certainly is not. The Trump is also, or excuse me, Pete Hegseth was on Fox and Friends this morning, and I want to share a portion of this as Hegseth is updating them. Now, this interview is too long. I'm not going to get into all of it, but I do want to share some of it. This is Pete Hegseth on Fox and Friends this morning.
Well, it is a tough way to start, and we've tried to lean forward and be as transparent as possible, while also respecting, of course, the families of those affected, the 64 on in that civilian airline, and then the 3 soldiers who have been notified. The next of kin have been notified, and we're being careful about that as well. Yeah, you got 3 Black Hawk pilots on effectively an annual night qualification run. So there's a corridor there that is utilized near Reagan National Airport that the military uses for exercises that are routine. But as you know, guys, nothing is routine in the military, whether it involves a training exercise or real world. In this particular case, they were qualifying on a night flight, which included night vision goggles. Now, we don't know is whether the goggles were engaged or up. And anyone that's been in the military knows you might use them, you might flip them up while flying. But if the qualification was a night flight, they could have been used. You have a lot of ambient light, a lot of things happening around Reagan. There can be depth perception problems. Again, that's speculation. Our investigation will tell us more. We also don't yet have the black box from the Black Hawk. When we do, we'll get a sense of internal communications. That might tell us exactly who was piloting that Black Hawk. You had a captain in training. You had a chief warrant officer, too, as an instructor. And then you also had a staff sergeant in that Black Hawk.
So giving a little bit, a few additional details as to what happened there. And in fact, the story goes on to say, I think in some of this, multiple reports say the Black Hawk helicopter may have been flying higher than it was supposed to, hence Trump's True Social post that I just shared with you. Time cited a report from the FAA, air traffic control may have instructed the passenger plane's pilots to pivot to another runway. We'll just have to wait and see. We really don't know at this point. So you got Hegseth then talking about it and calling it completely unacceptable. He said the Black Hawk helicopter's black box, which is yet to be recovered, would give some insights. He said, we're looking at altitude. Someone was at the wrong altitude. The investigation will help us understand that. Was the Black Hawk too high? Was it on course? Right now, we don't quite know. So that's the latest from Pete Hegseth. There was also some video that I want to show you regarding, as we were talking about Kash Patel. I just think he is incredible, Kash Patel. And what we have seen from him. So some of the highlights, this is actually, I want to share this. This is a portion of it. Senator Mike Lee. And he posted on X, as you see here, every FBI director I've questioned has lied to me. Kash Patel told the truth. Now, I don't want to share this entire 4 minutes because most of it is Senator Lee. But I am going to share some brief portions of it. Again, this is Senator Mike Lee.
I've been a U.S. Senator for 14 years. I've been on this committee the entire time. You were the very first FBI director or FBI director nominee who, when I've asked about this, hasn't said, oh, don't worry about it. We'll handle it okay. We've got good people on the inside. We would never breach the trust of the American people. Do you know what? They were lying. Let's talk about.
So then he goes on, and I want to pick it up here with Kash Patel's answer, and then you get the reaction here from Senator Lee. Check this out.
Appropriate uses of FISA 702.
As you alluded to, the FISA court, it's not me deciding it. The FISA court put out a report in 22 or 23 where 255,000 illegal improper queries of American citizens had occurred. 255,000.
Can you imagine that?
The American people don't trust it. And that's what we must work together, Congress and me, if I'm confirmed as FBI director, restore that trust and protect the mission.
Music to my ears, because I've been a U.S. Senator for 14 years. I've been on this committee the entire time. You were the very first FBI director or FBI director nominee who, when I've asked about this, hasn't said, oh, don't worry about it. We'll handle it okay. We've got.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? It's just absolutely wild. So Senator Mike Lee, I wanted to share that. And then Alex Pfeiffer is in the White House communications office. And he, as you see, he posts here, did you know Kash Patel was given a DOJ award for work that he did investigating and prosecuting terrorists under the Obama administration? I just think the more we learn about Kash Patel, the more impressive he is. So I love these reactions. Kash Patel just dropped a metaphorical nuke on critics who claim he's anti-law enforcement. What an amazing mic drop. How long is this? Let's take a listen.
To critics who say that you're anti-law enforcement.
Mr. Chairman, I greatly appreciate the question, the opportunity to discuss that. If anyone wants to consider me as anti-law enforcement, then look at my 16 years in government service, whether I was trying 60 jury trials in state and federal court upholding the rights of the indigent and breathing life into constitutional due process, or later as a national security prosecutor, where I served this country and overseas. And later, when I was a Joint Special Operations Command civilian embedded with SEAL Team 6 in Delta, chasing down some of the most high-value target terrorists there are on this earth and successfully achieving a mission end state. I have always respected law enforcement. I have taken that oath and will take that oath again, God willing, to be the next director of the FBI. As for January 6th, I have repeatedly, often, publicly, and privately said there can never be a tolerance for violence against law enforcement. And anyone that commits an act of violence against law enforcement must be investigated, prosecuted, and imprisoned. And on January 6th, I said the same thing about acts against law enforcement. The Capitol Police, who I have served with.
I love this guy.
And when I was Chief of Staff at the Department of Defense.
What do you disagree with here that he say?
Members of this committee and your colleagues to provide the National Guard was my top mission priority, not politics. And that is my love of this country, to protect our laws and our way of life. And it was no different. If there's any ever corruption, I have been the first to call it out. And I will continue to call out corruption in government service because it is a privilege to serve this nation. Thank you.
Wow. I mean, seriously, what a rock star. This guy is just absolutely incredible. So that was Kash Patel and some of the hearing yesterday. Melissa is loving this too, that he is stellar. Yeah, agreed, Melissa. Senator Grassley of Iowa knew to ask that question because he knew what the answer would be. Yeah, absolutely right. I think Chuck Grassley has done a nice job as with that committee. It's pretty crazy. All right. Also, while we're talking about Kash Patel, there was another video. You've got to watch this between him and Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, because it's just cracked me up, as I was saying on the air this morning. Here it is.
And that was in March of
That's Senator
2024
Klobuchar.
on Joe Pack's podcast. He asked you, the Capitol Police in that fake January 6th committee, they didn't tell the truth, did they? Patel, no, not just them, many others. And lying under oath is a federal offense and they should be investigated for it. Do you believe that about the police officers?
That's a general statement and a mischaracterization of what I said. I encourage you to read the rest of the interview. This is why snippets of information are often misleading and detrimental to this committee's.
And what do I tell you? I have said that on the air all the time. The media are masters. They give you part of the quote, and then afterward, often is what puts the quote in actual context so that you understand what it was the person is actually saying. And you've got Kash Patel here saying exactly the same thing I've said time and time and time again on the Greg Belfrage Show.
Advice and consent
Well,
process.
if you consent, I would love to have 5 hours of questions and then I could read the whole transcript.
You've got 2
Okay.
minutes.
You've got 2 minutes. You've got 2 minutes. Boom! How do you just not laugh yourself silly over some of this stuff? I mean, it's absolutely crazy. All right, let's no kidding. Patel versus Klobuchar, the adult setting the toddler straight. Terry also found it funny, hilarious. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And again, I watched that. And I was really curious this morning. Now, I caught just snippets, of Kash Patel. I caught snippets of Tulsi Gabbard. I caught snippets of RFK Jr. I should have brought up that exchange between RFK Jr. and Bernie Sanders, because I thought that was that was great. It was absolutely incredible as you watched that unfold yesterday. So this stuff is just absolutely wild. Okay, there was one other story that I wanted to share with you this morning that I've got. This from Straight Arrow News this morning. Oh, I hate it when they do this to me. I had it up. Here we go. No, we're going to turn the audio off. A law banning gun sales for adults under 21 unconstitutional. So the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled against a decades-old federal law that requires a prospective gun owner to be 21 years old in order to buy a gun. The Fifth Circuit found that such a law violates the Second Amendment following a Supreme Court ruling that expanded gun rights. So the appeals court says that people between the ages of 18 and 20 should not be prohibited from buying guns. This issue, I've had a problem with this for a long time. Oh, you're an adult. Oh, but you can't do this. You're an adult, but you can't do this. Can't buy tobacco, can't buy firearms. You can't do it, but you can go and fight and be killed for your country. Will allow you to do that. I mean, just makes absolutely no sense. Either you are an adult or you are not. And I find it refreshing that we're getting some clarity from the courts along those lines, because I made the argument, okay, if you don't want to do that, then fine. Then let's raise the age of being an adult to 21, and there it will stand. And then once you're 21, then you can do whatever. But the idea that you can't buy tobacco until you're a certain age, you can't do all of these things. You're an adult. Why in the world wouldn't you be allowed to do all these things? Buy a firearm. You're an adult. I mean, what does it mean to be an adult? Apparently a lot less than it used to. Once you were in a I just saw Robert's comment here. Hey, Robert, hey, man, you're not the only one. I mean, you are not the only one. I totally get it. I'm older than you, and I feel that way, especially when I'm surrounded by toys in this office. You can't see them. So, yeah, I totally get it. But it is pretty crazy. So that's interesting. I wish I had seen that earlier this morning. But that is just crossing my line of sight here today. And I try to catch as many things as I can. And there are some websites that are really good at helping me do that, to understand what's going on. And I tried to boil all of those things down for you seriously, so that if you want more information, you can go out there and find it. I want to bring these things to your attention so that you can go out there. If you want more information on some subject or another, you can go out there and get the information for yourself, rather than having, me share it with you, and maybe a little bit biased. Like with this issue of the age at which you could buy a gun would be an example. Either you're in it, we've talked about this on the program before, you know, either you're an adult or you're not. And to see courts now looking at it that way is really kind of refreshing. So we're going to leave it there for today. I want to wish you a great weekend. Hit the like button before you leave. If you do that, I'd be forever grateful, my friend. But you take care. I hope you have a great weekend. And I mean that very truly. Take care until Monday. So long.